Joyce gave a beautiful introduction to our speaker this evening. But our shared traditions have, I believe, as one of the deepest values, the value of teaching the next generation, of passing our learning on to our children. So it is my great privilege to invite Shayla Sayed to come and share with us from her experience.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the only God, the most gracious, the most compassionate. All praises are due to the one God that has blessed us with food, with shelter, with security and safety. Shabbat shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Thank you for inviting me to join in your beautiful service today. It's an honor to be here to share our traditions of love, of worship, and to live out our faith, to support our fellow human beings. It does seem that the world is becoming a challenging place, displacing many from their homes. However, this is probably just history repeating itself, as it may continue to. Safety and security is not something we can take for granted, and humans are complex, and forces that are beyond any one person can cause upheaval. God knows this about us and has given us guidance on how to handle this if we reflect. God knows that if we take a leap, we can do great things, and our traditions can get us there if we take a look and reflect. One of the greatest lessons of our faiths, I believe, is the power of community, of our own communities and of joining of communities. It can move mountains, so to speak, but it takes a lot of work, and it forces us to look beyond ourselves and our own people. And as we are talking about welcoming those who have been displaced in this world, as a Muslim, I'm reminded that providing refuge to others is an integral part of the Islamic traditions and our history. So for those who are not familiar, I just want to take you briefly back to 6th century Arabia, at a time when the Muslim prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was in the city of Mecca. And note, I will refer to Prophet Muhammad with this term, with the title, and Muslims refer to all prophets in our tradition, including Abraham, Adam, Moses, with the same title. And we often offer peace after their name, so you may hear me do that today. So Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born into a society that was fiercely tribal. So if a person didn't get protection, guaranteed protection from a person within a tribe who had leadership, they were without any recourse. So even a person who was born into a powerful tribe still had to secure protection with a leader within that tribe. And Prophet Muhammad experienced this firsthand. While he was born into a very powerful tribe, it was called Quraysh, he was an orphan by age 6. He was taken on under one of his uncles, who had developed enough affinity for him to agree to extend protection to him even after he began questioning the value system at that time. Prophet Muhammad preached on social justice issues and challenged this harsh tribal system. And this caused a lot of upheaval. But Abu Talib, his uncle, agreed to extend that protection, and that protected him and some of his immediate family. But you can imagine, if you didn't have a connection to a tribe, a protector, or your tribe leaders just refused to protect you for political reasons, you had no recourse. It was a harsh reality. No governor, no police was going to stop abuse. And that's exactly what was happening to Muslims at that time. So, like many early faith communities, Muslims were severely persecuted. There were alliances made against them. They're subject to economic boycotts. And those who had less power or money starved, they were beaten, and many were killed. So eventually, this community knew this was not sustainable, and they would have to leave their homes, and many of them had to leave their families. But the world at that time, much like now, requires a protector, someone that's going to give you refuge and tell you that you're going to be okay. So one group of Muslims at the time did leave Mecca and went to Abyssinia, present-day Ethiopia. It was ruled by a Christian king, King Negus. So despite, though, being pressured by Meccans to return these refugees, the king agreed to protect this group of people. These small acts of faith were wonderful, but it wasn't enough to protect this growing community. So just like today, helping large groups of people takes significant political capital. And Prophet Muhammad, I think, knew this, and at the time he was known as a person who could be trusted, so using that capital, he sought out more unique opportunities to help his people. And I would say through his networking, as we might say today, he received a request from a city at the time called Yathrib. Now it's known as Medina. They had their own ongoing tribal warfare, and they were looking for somebody for leadership. So Medina agreed that Muslims from Mecca could come to Medina for safety, and Muhammad was asked to lead their community. So slowly, Muslims started to leave Mecca for Medina. They had to leave in secret. And you can imagine at the time, this is causing a lot of problems in Mecca. The leaders are losing people in their family. This is impacting reputation, and probably impacting an economic labor force. You can just imagine the ripple effects that this was creating. This made life more difficult for Muhammad, but he still had his uncle until there came a time where his uncle died. And that meant he had to quickly get out, get the remaining Muslims out, because now he could absolutely be killed with impunity. So now after most of the Muslims had left Mecca, Prophet Muhammad did slip away through the night and barely escaping an assassination plot. So looking at that in our Muslim tradition, our Prophet Muhammad was a refugee, someone that would have been killed had he stayed where he was. So for Muslims, this alone is a call upon us to be ready to welcome people who are fleeing oppression. Now, interestingly, after Prophet Muhammad goes to Medina, he's now in a position to lead. And that again gives us something to reflect on how to handle the merging of populations. So Prophet Muhammad had to figure out how is he going to connect this large group of Meccan Muslims with the Medina community. So he starts by declaring a pact between Medina families and Mecca families. Each family had to pair together, and the Medina family was to share their home and resources with this refugee family and care for them as one of their own. It was a community effort. He had to get people to work together so that this new group of people could survive. They had to provide a social network, reliability, safety, and security, not just for physical needs, but for needs beyond that, for mental and spiritual needs. And in the Quran, God reassured them that they would prosper by helping others. So the Quran in chapter 59, I'll read a interpretation or translation, says, "Those that came to the city and to faith before them love those who take refuge with them and do not feel for themselves any need for what is given them, and give them preference over themselves, even if they are indigent. Whoever preserves himself from his own greed will be prosperous. I really love the last part of this verse. It says, it's really telling us about the human condition. Whoever preserves himself from his own greed will be prosperous. I mean, it's part of our human instinct to protect our self-interests. Those of our immediate family, those of the tribe we are the most familiar with. It's like how we find survival in a short term. It's a very short-term thinking. And it provides protection for a few, oftentimes to the detriment of many. God has asked us to look beyond that, to look beyond our fears, whether it's fear of our own poverty or fear of something else, and to know that when we help others, he will provide for us. Personally, I believe God is trying to show us, through our traditions, how to build a better society, and not just for our own tribes. Because when we do, we always see better versions of ourselves. And we bring out those better versions in those around us. We just have to be willing to take that leap. It is a lot easier to take that leap together. So I pray that our communities can continue to work together to welcome all those who are oppressed, whether they're here or abroad. I'll close today with the opening chapter of the Quran, Surah Fatiha. This is a chapter that's recited in every Muslim daily prayer several times a day. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. In the name of the one God, the infinitely good, the all-merciful, praise be to God, the Lord of the worlds, the infinitely good, the all-merciful, owner of the day of judgment. Only thee we worship, and only thee we ask for help. Guide us on the straight path, the path of those on whom is thy grace, not those who deserve anger or those who go astray. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.